What's the creepiest or most unexplainable thing you've ever seen that you haven't shared anywhere? Serious. Back in 2016 my mother was staying at my place because my father was in the hospital at the time and my apartment was right next to the hospital. One night I had this dream that the landline rings and my mother answers the phone and hears the news that my dad has passed away. She hangs up the phone and tells me that my uncle, a doctor at the hospital my father was in, just gave her the news of my father's passing. I wake up startled. I have a drink of water and just as I start feeling relieved that this was all just a bad dream, the phone rings and my mom picks it up. I was just watching her from a distance, noticing the expression on her face, noticing the tears that started dripping down her cheek, and she hangs up the phone and tells me that my uncle just told her that my father has passed away. This is the only unexplained thing that ever happened to me and this is the first time I share this with anybody. As a kid I had weirdly specific dreams that became true as well, but it was only about how and what candy I get on the day. I'm sorry for your loss. Edit. Okay UHM. This got big. For those who thought that my dream influenced my choice in candy on the next day, the dream looked like this. I was sitting with my bro in our room. My mum comes home, telling us we get candy from the closet in the living room as usual. My brother and I run to the closet. I jump on the couch, my brother jumping from excitement next to me. Finally my mum came in with a key and gives us that one specific peanut candy. On the next day it happened as dreamed. I wondered all day long if I would get candy and if I get the peanut one. My mum never asked us what kind we wanted and I can't control that my brother stays on the ground. Some say it was a deja vu, but they feel different for me. I don't think so. Me too. I had dreams that were weirdly vivid, that were from my viewpoint that would happen later. I was convinced I could see the future, but my predictions were pretty useless. Lol, I've since learned there's a form of deja vu that makes you feel like something you're doing you've dreamed of before. Edit. It's called deja reeve, courtesy of /u/f22, Android. Rescued a blue tick coonhound that had bad anxiety when we left, so he had to be crated. Went to the grocery store with wife and 2 young kids and left the dog in the crate. When we got back, the dog was out of the crate, but the crate was completely closed and latched. There was no apparent way it could have happened. We problem solved it for the entire day and couldn't figure out how he did it. Called him Blue Dinny after that. His unmatched escape skills continued though. He could open doors. No fence could hold him in. The dog simply climbed fences. We ended up rehoming him for his own safety. He actually wound up as a farm dog, which I'm sure was his best home. Should put one of those dog cams on it if this was recent. About 10 years ago. They were still a little pricey. So, there was a video on Reddit circulating in the last year or so where the owner of a boxer, I think, had the same experience. Couldn't figure out how the F the dog kept getting out, so they set up a cam the dog had figured out to pull up the bottom of the cage just enough to squeeze his full-size body out, leaving an empty and still locked kennel. I wouldn't have believed it if I hadn't seen it myself, but I hope this brings you some peace. I got recalled into work and was driving at about 3 AM. I was in a very rural area in western Washington. As I come around a curve I see a woman in a nightgown on the side of the road looking up at a steep embankment. Just standing there staring away from the road. There are no homes nearby, not for miles. I call 911 and pull over about a minute up the road not knowing what to think. Deputy showed up, couldn't locate anyone, and was as dumbfounded as I was. Happened to me before on a dark back road to my house. There is no street lights, the road is very curvy, and it was about 2 AM. She was standing on a bend in the road on the edge, while the cliff behind her was about 100 to 200 feet drop. There are no homes for about 2 miles up the hill. I was driving very slow to make the turn, so I got a good look with my headlights. I make it around the corner and look back. Nothing. Creepiest thing ever. White old lady in a white nightgown just staring. She jumped. That actually happened to me. I was about 13 years old and was on my bike. I crossed the bridge in town and saw an electric wheelchair scooter sitting empty, thinking it was odd. As I looked back I see a man standing on the other side of the guardrail for a split second before he jumped. I had passed him and didn't even see him. My brain didn't even register what had happened, and I went about my day. After a week I guess I was acting strange, because my parents finally asked what was wrong. I told them, spoke to a school counselor, and ended up putting in a police report. I was told by the police that, even if I had reacted, they figure the man died on impact with the water and that there was nothing I could have done. Still have regrets about not doing anything, but I honestly don't think my brain could comprehend what was going on. Edit. Thanks to everyone who responded. It's been good to hear your stories and talk with you. To anyone suffering from depression, please make sure to reach out to your family, a friend or a suicide hotline before it goes too far. And to those who have lost someone or have witnessed someone take their life, you aren't alone, and please seek any help you need to deal with the pain, even if it's just talking to a stranger on Reddit. Stay strong, my friends. What is it with ghosts wearing white, flowing nightgowns? Just once I want to hear about a girl ghost rocking SpongeBob pajama pants and fuzzy mismatched socks. Yeah, it is always a soldier in uniform or a woman in a white dress. You never see someone rocking parachute pants or platform shoes. Typically ghosts linger because of unfinished business. You think someone with frosted tips and wearing Jinko jeans is going to die with any regrets. My father died when I was 15, in my freshman year of college. Me and my roommate in the dorms were somewhat close, but really had only been known each other for a month when the creepy thing happened. I hadn't told her much about my childhood, but she knew that my father had passed. One day she woke me up and asked me, "Did your father used to call you, insert silly childhood nickname here?" I hadn't heard that name since I was 6 or 7. I definitely never told her that he used to call me that, as it was a repressed memory that I hadn't thought about in a long time. Anyway, as it turned out, she had a dream that my father had come to her and asked her to take care of me, calling me by this silly childhood nickname. It was always difficult for me that my father never saw me graduate high school or start college. But I guess he did, from wherever he is now. When I was about 9, in the 1970s, I was playing football in the street. A bus came along, so I jumped up on the pavement. As it passed I noticed my aunt and she smiled and waved to me. When the bus had gone I carried on playing. I went home several hours later to find my aunt had died the previous evening. Is there a chance that she faked her own death to start afresh and you were the last person she saw from her previous life on her way out of town? I once had a dream right around the time of day that my grandma passed. She was on a bus and happy it could be. It stopped near my grandfather and I, on the road next to Thiz, and she wanted me to go along. My grandfather kept insisting that I can't go. The bus left, and she was smiling and laughing as she was going to the big casino in the sky. She loved going to the casinos. I woke up shortly after from a phone call that she had died about 15 minutes ago. I was 10 y/0 riding my bicycle at dusk along the road I lived on, which was parallel to a set of railroad tracks. I moved off the road as a car sped by and a beer bottle came sailing at me from the front passenger seat. I could see 2 young women turned around laughing at me through the back window. I flipped them off and kept riding. About 30 seconds later, I heard the train slam into them. When I was about 11 or 12 I went with my friend and my younger brother to play football in a park that was in a pretty remote place, so there were never many people. Basically 3 or 4 people came dressed in like Victorian style clothes, set up a box underneath a tree with big branches, tied a rope around it. One of them stood there with this noose around his neck, and then his friend kicked the box, so he was hanging. They took turns doing this, and we left. Was super weird thinking back to it, and I have to check with my brother whenever I think about it to make sure it actually happened. Edit. For people asking how did they not die, they were taking turns etc. From what I remember, the box mustn't have been particularly high relative to the length of the rope, so there wasn't much of a drop if any. I don't remember how long they were swinging for, but I suppose it must have been between 15 seconds to a minute. Then the friends would put the box back for the one hanging to stand on, so they could get down, and someone else would take their place. Theory: you encountered a group of people from the Victorian era who attained immortality somehow. Once per year they go out to enjoy the summer air and check if they are still immortal. In my mother's house, the basement light would turn on while we were away, and even if it was turned off before we left, it was somehow back on when we got back. Once I went downstairs and was like, hey Mr. Ghostman, this is not good for the bills, could you PLS chill it with the lights? Yes, I know it's dark down here, okay thanks, lights stayed off. Edit. Holy Christ, more than 2 people upvoted me, what? Also, no, I have not seen Parasite. She lives in a small townhome and the basement is small, bare, and open. If someone could hide in there, I'd be extremely impressed given the complete lack of hiding spaces. When I get the chance, I'll give her a nightlight for Mr. Ghost. When I see her, it's what he deserves. Also, if we did have a squatter, that person wouldn't be able to hide very long. My dog and 2 cats live there, all of which are very alert to strangers, smell, or looks, especially the dog. Be sure to subscribe to our channel so as not to miss new super interesting discussions. In the meantime, we offer to watch our other videos. Bye.